So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Married Mulan and Had Child. So without wasting time, get start. A fine, gray mist clung to the ruins of the watchtower, carrying the smell of burnt wood and something sharper, coppery, that made the Konoha Recovery Corps move with a grim, practiced efficiency. Naruto Uzumaki, the seventh Hokage, stood at the epicenter of the destruction, his orange and black Hokage robes billowing softly in the windless air. His gaze was fixed on a single point, a massive, perfect circle carved into the stone foundation of the tower, as smooth as glass. It wasn't a blast crater. It was an absence. The stone hadn't been destroyed, it had simply been erased. Tsuchi no Shiki? No, he murmured to himself, his voice rough. He'd seen the Akatsuki's techniques, fought gods and aliens. This was different. This felt personal. A young Chunin, her face pale beneath her headband, approached hesitantly. Hokage-sama, we've finished the preliminary sweep. No survivors. 37 confirmed dead, including the 3-man border patrol. She swallowed hard. The Kusagakure delegation was supposed to arrive this morning for the trade summit. Their envoy is demanding an explanation. They're claiming we staged this to frame them. Naruto finally looked away from the circle. His blue eyes, usually filled with an infectious warmth, were hard, the eyes of a man who had seen too much war. They're wrong. This wasn't a staging. This was a message. He pointed to the circle. They didn't just kill our people. They erased their existence. Their chakra signatures, their bodies, their history. It's like they were never here. The destruction of Tsubakigawa wasn't just an act of war, it was an obliteration of memory. And it had come at the worst possible time. Relations with Kusagakure, the village hidden in the grass, had been fraying for a year. A dispute over a fertile valley, a series of accidental skirmishes along the border, whispers of a new, militant faction seizing power in the Grass Council. The summit was meant to be the last chance for peace. Now it was ash. Sakura Haruno, her pink hair a stark contrast to the gray devastation, knelt beside a wounded soldier they had found just outside the blast perimeter. Her jade-green eyes, sharp and analytical, scanned the man's chakra network. He was unconscious, his breathing shallow. Naruto! She called, her voice tight. Come look at this. He was at her side in an instant. What is it, Sakura? The chakra depletion, she said, pointing to faint, almost invisible lines of bruising on the man's temples. It's not like a normal jutsu drain. It's like his very life force was siphoned. And look! She gently pulled back the man's collar, revealing a strange, geometric pattern, like a bruise in the shape of a twisted spiral, burned into his skin. Naruto's blood ran cold. The symbol was almost familiar, a corrupted, angry version of the Uzumaki swirl that was sewn onto the back of his own jacket. A chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air crept down his spine. Get him to the hospital, he ordered, his voice low. Sakura, I need you and Sasuke on this. Something's wrong. Something deeper than a border dispute. Sakura looked up at him, seeing the weight settling on his shoulders. We'll find out what happened, Naruto. We always do. He gave her a tight, grateful smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. He was the Hokage. He had to project strength. But in his gut, a cold knot of dread was forming. The technique, the symbol, the erasure, it felt like a perversion of everything he was. A dark mirror. Across the continent, in the land of valleys, the air was thick with the scent of wet earth and blooming jasmine. This was a place untouched by shinobi warfare, a world where the greatest threats were drought and bandits. Here, Fa Mulan, the famed warrior of China, walked the perimeter of her family's estate. A lifetime ago, she had saved her country by disguising herself as a man. Now, she was a wife, a mother, and the unofficial bridge between two impossible worlds. The quiet life was a gift she never took for granted, a peace she had fought for. Yet, it came with its own, unique battles. The hardest of which was currently standing behind her, a tiny figure with wild, blonde hair and brilliant blue eyes that held the secrets of a world he'd never seen. Again, Mama. Boruto, no, in this world they had given him a different name, a name that honored both his lineages, Riku. It meant land and sky. A child of two worlds. He was 4 years old. Mulan sighed, a smile playing on her lips. She turned. Riku was standing in the middle of the training yard, his chubby legs planted wide, his face screwed up in concentration. He had a wooden practice sword held in a white-knuckled grip. Riku, we've been at this for an hour. You need a rest. No, he declared, his lower lip jutting out in a perfect imitation of his father. Baba said a warrior never gives up. Mulan knelt, bringing herself to his eye level. Your father also said a warrior knows his limits. A tired warrior makes mistakes. She reached out and gently pried the wooden sword from his grip. He was so strong, even at this age. The chakra that flowed through him was a quiet hum of power, a river she could sense but never truly touch. "But I want to be strong like you and Baba," he mumbled, his defiance crumbling into simple, earnest longing. Mulan's heart ached with a fierce, protective love. She pulled him into a hug, breathing in the scent of his hair. "You are strong, my little one. The strongest person I know. But strength isn't just about fighting. It's about knowing when to be still." She held him at arm's length. "Your father is the strongest man in his world because he knows how to love his friends, not just how to fight them. Do you understand?" Rika nodded, though his brow was furrowed in the way that showed he was only half convinced. "When is Baba coming home?" "Soon," she promised. "He had to go help some people. It's what a Hokage does." Just then, a strange ripple passed through the air. It wasn't a sound, or a change in the light, but a deep, resonant thrum that Mulan felt in her very bones. The pendant Naruto had given her, a small, Uzumaki swirl carved from a piece of the Sage of Six Paths staff, grew suddenly warm against her chest. Riku stiffened in her arms, his blue eyes going wide, not with fear, but with a strange, distant recognition. "Mama," he whispered, his voice oddly flat. "The sad man is here." Mulan's hand instinctively went to the jian hidden in her sleeve. "What sad man, Riku?" He pointed towards the line of trees at the edge of their property. "The one who's lost. He's wearing a mask." Mulan saw nothing but the dappled shadows of the forest. The birds had stopped singing. A profound, unnerving silence had fallen. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She pulled Riku closer, her warrior's instincts screaming a primal warning. There was someone there. Something. And it was watching them. 2 days later, the mountain pass known as the Serpent's Spine lived up to its name. A treacherous, winding road carved into the side of a cliff, it was the only land route connecting the northern territories to the Fire Country. Sasuke Uchiha stood at its edge, his single onyx eye surveying the terrain below. The wind whipped his dark hair across his face, but he remained as still as a statue. Sakura landed softly beside him, her chakra signature as familiar to him as his own. "The trail from Tsubakigawa goes cold here," she reported, brushing a strand of pink hair from her face. "Whoever did this didn't just mask their tracks, they unmade them. It's almost supernatural." Sasuke grunted. He pointed to a rocky outcropping 100 meters below. "There. A fragment." They made their way down, moving with the fluid grace of seasoned shinobi. The fragment was a piece of black cloth, no bigger than a fingernail, snagged on a jagged piece of rock. It was unlike any fabric Sakura had ever seen. It felt impossibly light, yet dense, and it seemed to absorb the light around it, creating a tiny pool of shadow. "It's not from any village we know," Sasuke stated, his voice a low monotone. "The weave is foreign. The chakra residue on it is chaotic. Unstable." Sakura took the fragment, placing it in a sealed vial. "Could it be a new Kyuzugakure weapon? A new Jinchuriki?" Sasuke was silent for a long moment. He looked out over the vast landscape, at the peaceful villages and farmlands below, utterly oblivious to the storm that was gathering. "No," he finally said. "This isn't the work of a village. This is the work of a single, incredibly powerful individual. Someone who wants to draw us out." He turned to face her. "They destroyed a border post. They left a survivor. They left a clue. This is a game, Sakura. And they've just made their first move." Sakura felt a chill. She thought of her daughter, Sarada, back in the village, training hard to one day become Hokage. She thought of Naruto, carrying the weight of a world on his shoulders. "Then we need to figure out the rules, and fast." Sasuke's gaze was unreadable. "The rules are simple. Find them. Stop them. Before Naruto has to." The unspoken implication hung in the air between them, before this conflict forced Naruto to do something that would break him. Back in the Leaf Village, Naruto sat alone in his office, the mountain of paperwork on his desk ignored. The sun was setting, casting long, orange shadows across the room. In his hand, he held a small, faded drawing. It was a crude picture of a family of 3, drawn by a 4-year-old's unsteady hand. A man with spiky yellow hair, a woman with a long black ponytail, and a small figure with a giant smile between them. Riku. He missed him with a physical ache, a hollow spot in his chest that no amount of Hokage duties could fill. He missed Mulan's quiet strength, her wisdom, the way she could silence his anxieties with a single, knowing look. Shikamaru entered without knocking, a scroll unfurled in his hand. His expression was grim. "Naruto. The Kyuzugakure situation just escalated. Their envoy is claiming the attack on Tsubakigawa was a coup by the militant faction within their own council. They're saying the faction has a new leader, a masked figure they call the Hollow One. And they're demanding we join them in a preemptive strike before this figure turns their entire village against us." Naruto looked up, his blue eyes tired. "And if we don't?" Then they'll accuse us of being in league with them. They're painting us into a corner, Naruto. This is how wars start. Shikamaru pinched the bridge of his nose. I've already got intel trying to dig up anything on this hollow one. So far, nothing. It's like he appeared from thin air a year ago. A year ago, Naruto repeated softly. A year ago, Rika was born. He shook his head, dismissing the absurd, painful thought. What about Sasuke and Sakura? Any word? They're following a lead. Something about the technique used at Tsubakigawa. Sakura's preliminary analysis suggests it's a space-time ninjutsu, but twisted. It doesn't just teleport matter, it deletes it from this dimension. Shikamaru let that sink in. Naruto, if that's true, we're dealing with something beyond any known jutsu. Even beyond Kagaya's dimensions. Naruto stood up, walking to the large window that overlooked the village. He could see the lights flickering on in the homes below, families gathering for dinner, children playing in the streets. He had sworn to protect this peace, this happiness. He would fight any enemy, face any god, to keep it safe. But as he stared out at the village he loved, a shinobi's instinct, honed by a lifetime of battle, whispered a terrifying truth in his ear. This wasn't an enemy he could simply overpower with a Rasengan. This was a mystery that cut to the very core of who he was. And the answers, he feared, lay not in some foreign land, but in the quiet estate in the land of valleys, where his wife and child waited for him. He looked down at the crude drawing in his hand, at the smiling, innocent face of his son. The cold knot of dread in his gut tightened. The symbol burned into the soldier's skin, the hollow one. The mysterious erasure of life, it all swirled in his mind, forming a picture he was desperately afraid to see clearly. He thought of the technique. The absence. The nothingness. Like they were never here. He thought of Rika's powerful, untamed chakra. A child of two worlds, with the potential to be greater than either of his parents. The thought was a betrayal, and he crushed it instantly. But the seed of doubt was planted. And in the darkness of his office, with only the silent village and the fading light for company, Naruto Uzumaki, for the first time in years, felt truly afraid. Not of the war that was coming, but of the truth that might be waiting for him at its heart. The medical bay of Konoha's hospital was silent except for the steady beep of monitoring equipment and the soft whisper of Sakura's chakra as it flowed into the unconscious soldier from Tsubakigawa. 3 days had passed since the attack, and the man's condition had only worsened. The geometric brand on his neck had spread, thin black lines now creeping like veins toward his jaw and collarbone. Sakura withdrew her hands, her brow glistening with sweat. Beside her, Shizen watched with concern. Any change? Shizen asked quietly. Sakura shook her head, frustration etched into every line of her face. It's not responding to any known medical jutsu. The chakra depletion continues, but it's not being used to fuel anything. It's just disappearing. Like the man himself is being slowly erased from existence. She pulled the sheet back further, revealing more of the branching black lines. They weren't random, they followed the pathways of the body's chakra network with terrifying precision, as if someone had mapped the man's very soul and was now methodically deleting it, line by line. I need to show this to Naruto, Sakura said, covering the soldier again. And I need you to keep this quiet. If the village finds out we have a survivor who's essentially dying of a curse mark we can't understand, panic will spread faster than wildfire. Shizen nodded solemnly. The Hokage's office already has 3 separate delegations waiting. Kyuzugaku's official envoy, the daimyo's representative, and… She hesitated. And a woman who arrived this morning. She refused to give her name, just said she was family. The guards at the gate said she moved like a shinobi but wore no headband. She's been waiting in the Hokage's private quarters since dawn. Sakura's heart skipped. She knew exactly who it was. Mulan sat perfectly still in the small antechamber adjacent to Naruto's office, her hands folded in her lap, her posture that of a soldier awaiting orders. But her dark eyes, when they lifted to meet Sakura's entrance, held something far more vulnerable than martial discipline. They held the quiet terror of a mother. Sakura, Mulan said, rising gracefully. Thank you for seeing me. Sakura crossed the room in 3 quick strides and took Mulan's hands. They were cold. What's happened? Is it Rika? Mulan's composure cracked, just slightly, a hairline fracture in armor. Something came to our home. 3 nights ago. I didn't see it, but Rika did. She reached into her sleeve and withdrew a small piece of fabric, wrapped carefully in silk. He said he saw a sad man in a mask. The next morning, I found this pressed into the earth where Rika had been pointing. Sakura unwrapped the silk. Inside was a fragment of black cloth, identical in every way to the piece she and Sasuke had found in the mountain pass. The same impossible lightness. The same light-absorbing darkness. The same chaotic, unstable chakra residue. Sakura's blood ran cold. Mulan, where is Rika now? With Granny Fa, in the land of valleys. I left immediately. I told no one where I was going. Mulan's gaze was piercing. Sakura, what is this? What's happening? Before Sakura could answer, the door slid open and Naruto entered, Shikamaru close behind him. Naruto's face, when he saw Mulan, transformed, the weight of the Hokage momentarily lifting, replaced by the pure, unguarded joy of a husband seeing his wife. Then he saw her expression, and the joy curdled into concern. Mulan. What's wrong? She crossed to him in an instant, and he wrapped his arms around her, his chin resting on top of her head. For a moment, they simply held each other, two warriors who had found peace in each other's arms, now facing the shattering of that peace. Mulan pulled back first, her composure restored. She explained everything, Riku's words, the strange ripple she'd felt, the pendant growing warm, the fragment of cloth. When she finished, the room was silent. Shikamaru was the first to speak, his voice carefully measured. The fragment matches the one Sasuke and Sakura found. Which means this masked figure, whoever they are, was at Tsubakigawa, and then 3 days later they were at your home in the land of valleys. That's a distance that would take even a top-tier shinobi a week to travel on foot. Unless they can teleport, Sakura murmured. The technique used at Tsubakigawa. What if it's not just an attack? What if it's a form of travel? Erasing yourself from one location and manifesting in another? A space-time ninjutsu that leaves no trace, Shikamaru said, his mind racing. No summoning marks, no transportation seals, no residue except this strange chakra signature. It's unprecedented. Naruto hadn't spoken. He was staring at the fragment of cloth, his blue eyes dark with an emotion none of them could name. Finally, he said. Riku said he was sad? The sad man in a mask? How did he know that? How did he sense an emotion from someone he couldn't see? Mulan shook her head slowly. I don't know. Sometimes he says things that make no sense. About people he's never met, places he's never been. I thought it was just a child's imagination. He has your sensitivity to chakra and my reserves, Naruto said quietly. What if it's more than that? What if he can sense things none of us can? The implication hung in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. A child with unknown abilities, connected somehow to a mysterious masked figure who had appeared exactly 1 year after that child was born. Sakura broke the silence. We need more information. Sasuke's following the trail from the mountain pass. I should join him. No, Naruto said, his voice suddenly sharp. Then softer. No. I need you here. If this figure can appear anywhere, at any time, I need my best medical ninja in the village. Sasuke can handle the investigation alone. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Naruto rarely pulled rank, and never without reason. Something was happening inside his old friend's mind, something he couldn't yet see. Mulan placed a hand on Naruto's arm. I should go back. Riku needs me. And I need you safe, Naruto replied. If this figure knows about you, about Riku. He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Then we protect him together, Mulan said firmly. I didn't come here to be hidden away. I came here to fight beside my husband, as I always have. For the first time since entering the room, Naruto smiled, a small, sad smile, but genuine. I know. And I love you for it. But this is different, Mulan. This isn't an army we can see, an enemy we can face. This is a ghost. Then we become ghost hunters, Mulan replied simply. 4 days later, deep in the mountains north of the Fire Country, Sasuke Uchiha stood at the entrance to a cave hidden behind a waterfall. The fragment of cloth had led him here, its chaotic chakra signature growing stronger with each step. He'd left his hawk behind. This was a mission that required stealth, not speed. The cave was dark, but his Sharingan pierced the shadows easily. What he saw made him stop cold. The walls were covered in writing. Thousands of characters, carved into the stone with precision that spoke of months, maybe years, of labor. They weren't in any language Sasuke recognized, not the common script of the 5 great nations, not the ancient text of the Uchiha, not even the coded language of Root. They swirled and spiraled in patterns that hurt to look at, as if the very act of reading them caused the mind to rebel. At the center of the cave was a simple stone pedestal. On it rested a mask. It was white, featureless except for 2 eye holes and a single crack running from the forehead to the jaw. But as Sasuke watched, the crack seemed to pulse, faintly, like a heartbeat. The air around the mask shimmered with barely contained power. Sasuke approached slowly, his hand hovering over his sword. The mask didn't move, didn't react, but he could feel it watching him. Waiting. He reached out. And the world turned white. When his vision cleared, he was no longer in the cave. He stood in a vast, empty plain beneath a sky that held no sun, no moon, no stars. The ground beneath his feet was featureless gray, stretching to infinity in all directions. You shouldn't have come here, Sasuke Uchiha. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It was calm, measured, and utterly devoid of emotion. Sasuke's Sharingan spun to life, searching for the source. Show yourself. A figure materialized 20 meters in front of him. Tall, robed in black, face hidden behind a white mask with a single crack. The Hollow One. You're looking for answers, the figure said. I can give you some. Not all. But some. Why did you destroy Tsubakigawa? To get his attention. The figure tilted its head. I needed him to look. To see. To start asking questions. Whose attention? Naruto's? The figure didn't answer directly. Instead, it raised a hand, and the empty plain around them began to fill with images. Sasuke saw Naruto, younger, fighting pain in the ruins of Konoha. Saw him meeting Mulan for the first time, in a world of mountains and dragons. Saw their wedding, small and private, witnessed only by closest friends. Saw Riku's birth, the joy on both their faces. Then the images changed. Sasuke saw the same faces, but twisted. Naruto, alone, screaming at an empty sky. Mulan, aged and grieving, kneeling before a small grave. And Riku, older, maybe 15 or 16, standing before that same white mask, reaching out to take it. What is this? Sasuke demanded. Some kind of illusion. A possibility, the figure replied. A future that was. A future that could be. Time is not the straight line you believe it to be, Sasuke Uchiha. It bends. It breaks. It weeps. Sasuke's sword was in his hand before he consciously decided to draw it. Speak plainly, or don't speak at all. The figure laughed, a hollow, echoing sound that contained no humor. Plainly? Very well. The child you know as Riku Uzumaki is not just your friend's son. He is the key to a war that has already happened and a war that has not yet begun. And I am here to make sure that neither war destroys what little peace remains. You're talking in riddles. I'm talking in truths. Your mind is simply not equipped to understand them yet. The figure took a step closer. Go back to Konoha. Tell Naruto what you've seen. Tell him that the Hollow One will meet him at the place where two worlds touch. Tell him to come alone. And if he refuses? The figure was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was softer, and for just an instant, Sasuke thought he heard something beneath the emptiness, something that sounded almost like pain. He won't refuse. Because he's already starting to suspect the truth. And he needs to know if his suspicions are correct. The white plane dissolved, and Sasuke was back in the cave, gasping for breath. The mask was gone. The writing on the walls was fading, characters crumbling into dust before his eyes. Within minutes, the cave was just a cave, empty, silent, and ordinary. But Sasuke knew, with the certainty of a man who had faced gods and monsters, that nothing about this situation was ordinary. And the worst part, the part that would haunt him all the way back to Konoha, was that in that final moment, before the vision ended, he had seen the figure's eyes through the cracks in the mask. They were blue. Brilliant sky blue. And they were identical to Naruto's. In the land of valleys, Riku sat in the garden, watching butterflies dance between flowers. Granny Fa was inside, preparing lunch, her humming a distant comfort. But Riku wasn't really paying attention to the butterflies. He was listening to something else. A voice, soft and sad, that had been whispering to him for days. Little one. Little warrior. Can you hear me? Riku nodded, not speaking aloud. In his 4-year-old mind, this was perfectly normal. Grown-ups couldn't hear it, but he could. It was like the wind, but with words. I'm sorry I scared your mama. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to see you. Why? Riku whispered. Because you're important. More important than you know. And because I need your help. Riku frowned. Mama says I shouldn't talk to strangers. A soft laugh, sadder than before. Your mama is very wise. You should listen to her. But I'm not a stranger, little one. Not really. I'm family. Riku's eyes widened. Do you know my Baba? A long pause. Then, I know him better than anyone. Better than he knows himself, sometimes. Are you the sad man? The one in the mask? Another pause, longer still. When the voice returned, it was barely a whisper. Yes. I'm the sad man. And I'm so tired of being sad. Riku considered this with the simple logic of a child. Then why don't you just stop? Because it's not that easy. Some sadness is too big to stop. It becomes who you are. That's silly. Riku declared. Mama says sadness is like rain. It falls, but then it stops, and the sun comes out. The voice didn't answer for a long time. When it did, it trembled. Your mama is very, very smart. I wish I'd remembered that. The whisper faded, and Riku was alone with the butterflies. But he smiled, because for just a moment, he'd felt something warm beneath the sadness. Something that felt almost like hope. When Granny Fa called him in for lunch, he ran inside, already chattering about the butterflies. He didn't mention the voice. It felt like a secret, and secrets, he learned, were sometimes best kept. But that night, he dreamed of a man in a white mask, standing alone in an empty plain beneath a starless sky. And in the dream, the man took off the mask, and Riku saw his face. It looked almost like Baba. But older. And so sad. Riku woke up crying, and didn't know why. Sasuke returned to Konoha 7 days after he'd left. He went straight to the Hokage's office, ignoring the stares of the staff, the whispered questions from advisors. He found Naruto alone, staring out the window at the village below. The Hollow One wants to meet you, Sasuke said without preamble. At the place where two worlds touch. Alone. Naruto didn't turn around. Do you know what that place is? I have theories. Sasuke moved to stand beside him. Naruto. I saw something. In a cave, in a vision. I saw the figure's eyes. Naruto finally turned. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed with lack of sleep. And? Sasuke met his gaze steadily. They were blue. You're blue. And the figure spoke about Riku. Called him the key. Said he was trying to prevent a war that's already happened and one that hasn't begun. Naruto closed his eyes. When he opened them, they held a pain so deep it was almost physical. I've been having dreams, he said quietly. For weeks now. Dreams of Riku older. Wearing that mask. Standing over me while I lie broken on the ground. His voice cracked. Sasuke, what if it's true? What if my son? We don't know anything yet, Sasuke interrupted firmly. Dreams aren't truth. Visions can be manipulated. The figure itself admitted it was showing me possibilities. Not facts. But you felt it. The connection. Naruto's hands gripped the windowsill so hard his knuckles went white. That chakra. That technique. It's like a corrupted version of my own. Like someone took everything I am and twisted it into something destructive. Sasuke was silent. There was nothing he could say to refute it, because he'd felt it too. I have to go, Naruto said finally. I have to meet it. Him. Whoever. And if it's a trap? Then it's a trap. Naruto's voice hardened, the Hokage re-emerging from the shattered father. But I'm not going alone. I'm taking Mulan. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. It said alone? It said to come alone? It didn't say anything about my wife. A ghost of Naruto's old grin flickered across his face. Besides, she'd kill me if I tried to leave her behind. For the first time in days, something like hope flickered in the room. It was small, fragile, easily extinguished. But it was there. And in the land of valleys, a little boy with sky-blue eyes waved at a butterfly and smiled, unaware that his world was about to change forever. The journey to the border between worlds took 3 days. Naruto and Mulan traveled light, moving through hidden paths that only the Hokage knew, avoiding villages and patrols. They spoke little during the daylight hours, but at night, when they camped beneath the stars, words came easier. He knew things about me, Mulan said on their second night, staring into the small fire they'd allowed themselves. The masked figure. Riku said he told him I was smart. That I was wise. She looked at Naruto, her dark eyes reflecting the flames. How would a stranger know that? Naruto didn't have an answer. He'd been asking himself similar questions since Sasuke's return. The dreams had intensified. Every night now, he saw Riku behind the mask, saw the moment of confrontation, felt the impossible weight of fighting his own blood. There's something I never told you, he said quietly. About the day Riku was born. Mulan's attention sharpened. What? When he first cried, that first moment, when the midwife placed him in your arms, I felt something. A connection, but not just a normal father-son bond. It was like... Naruto struggled to find words. Like a part of my soul split in two. Like there was suddenly a second version of me in the world, but different. New. Mulan reached across the space between them and took his hand. I felt it too. When I first held him, I saw things. Flashes. A battle in a place that wasn't quite real. A man in a mask falling. A woman, me, but older, watching from a distance, crying. She squeezed his fingers. I thought it was just exhaustion. The mind playing tricks after childbirth. They sat with that revelation, the fire crackling between them. Two warriors who had faced armies, dragons, and gods, now confronting a mystery that cut to the heart of everything they'd built together. The place where two worlds touch, Mulan murmured. What is it? Naruto had asked Sasuke the same question. His oldest friend had given him a scroll, ancient and fragile, recovered from the ruins of the Uchiha shrine. It spoke of a location, not a place on any map, but a convergence point where the barriers between dimensions grew thin. A place where, according to legend, the Sage of Six Paths had once stood and spoken with beings from beyond. It's a canyon, Naruto said. In the mountains north of here. Sasuke's scroll says it was formed when the sage and his brother fought the Ten Tails. The impact split more than just the earth, it split reality itself. Mulan absorbed this calmly. After everything she'd seen since marrying Naruto, the concept of reality being split was surprisingly easy to accept. And you believe the masked figure chose this place intentionally? I believe it wants me to understand something. And this is the only place where understanding is possible. They reached the canyon at dawn on the third day. It was unlike anything Mulan had ever seen. The gorge stretched for miles, its walls sheer and impossibly smooth, as if carved by a blade that had cut through both stone and space. But the strangest thing was the light. It shifted constantly, flowing through colors that didn't exist in nature, deep violets that hurt to look at, golds that seemed to pulse with their own heartbeat, silvers that reflected nothing. At the canyon's center, where the walls narrowed to a razor's edge, stood the masked figure. It was exactly as Sasuke had described, tall, robed in black, face hidden behind a white mask with a single crack from forehead to jaw. But seeing it in person was different from hearing about it. The figure radiated a presence that felt simultaneously ancient and impossibly young. It stood perfectly still, waiting, as if it had been standing there for centuries and would stand there for centuries more. Naruto's hand found Mulan's. They walked forward together. You brought her, the figure said. Its voice was calm, measured, and utterly devoid of the malice Naruto had expected. I should have known you would. You were never good at following instructions. Who are you? Naruto demanded. Why did you destroy Tsubakigawa? Why did you go near my family? The figure tilted its head. So many questions. You always did lead with your heart before your head. It raised a hand, and the air between them shimmered. I'll answer. But not here. Not like this. Come with me, both of you, and I'll show you everything. Naruto's instincts screamed trap. But beneath the suspicion, beneath the warrior's caution, something else stirred. Something that recognized the figure's posture, the way it held itself, the faint, almost imperceptible tremor in its voice. It was afraid. The figure was afraid. Where? Mulan asked. The figure gestured toward the canyon walls, where the strange light swirled thickest. Through there. To the place between. The space where time bends and truth lives. Naruto met Mulan's eyes. In them, he saw his own conflict reflected, the desperate need for answers warring with the instinct to protect. She nodded barely perceptibly. They walked forward together. The light swallowed them whole. They emerged in a world that wasn't a world. The ground beneath their feet was translucent, revealing infinite depths below. The sky above held 1,000 moons, each in a different phase. And scattered across the landscape, if it could be called that, were moments. Frozen instants of time, hanging in the air like paintings in a gallery. Naruto saw himself as a child, sitting alone on a swing. Saw Mulan, younger, cutting her hair before riding to war. Saw their wedding, the small ceremony, the quiet joy. Saw Rika's first steps, first words, first laugh. The place between, the masked figure said, appearing beside them. Every moment that ever was, every moment that could be, every moment that will never be, they all exist here, simultaneously. Why are you showing us this? Mulan asked. The figure was silent for a long moment. When it spoke, its voice was softer, less controlled. Because I need you to understand. Not just what I've done, but why. And because... It hesitated. Because I'm tired of carrying this alone. The figure reached up and removed its mask. Naruto's world stopped. The face beneath was his own. Older, yes, perhaps by 15 years. Weathered by battles and grief. But unmistakably his. The same whisker marks. The same bone structure. The same blue eyes, though these were filled with a sorrow so profound it seemed to have no bottom. But it wasn't his face. It was Rika's. Grown. Aged. Broken. Hello, father, Rika said. I'm sorry it has to be like this. Mulan made a sound, half gasp, half sob, and stumbled forward. Naruto caught her, his arms wrapping around her automatically, but he couldn't couldn't speak, couldn't think. His son, his little boy, his Riku, stood before him as a man, wearing the face of a villain, speaking words that made no sense. How? Naruto finally managed. His voice was a stranger's. You're 4 years old. You're at home with Granny Fa. This isn't possible. Riku smiled, and the smile broke something in Naruto's chest. It was so familiar, that smile. He'd seen it every morning at breakfast, every evening before bed. But now it was weighted with years of pain. Time doesn't work the way you think it does, Riku said. Especially not for someone like me. Someone born of 2 worlds, with chakra that exists in multiple places at once. He gestured at the frozen moments around them. I've been here before. Many times. This place, the place between, it's been my home for longer than you can imagine. Then you're not. Mulan's voice broke. You're not our Riku? Not the one we raised? Riku's eyes softened with an ache that mirrored her own. I am mother. And I'm not. I'm the Riku who grew up. Who made choices. Who lost everything. He looked away, toward a frozen image of himself as a child, laughing in a sunlit garden. I'm the Riku who became the Hollow One because there was nothing left to be. Naruto forced his legs to move. He walked toward his son, his grown son, until they stood face to face. Up close, the differences were clearer. Scars that Naruto didn't recognize. A hardness around the eyes that he never wanted to see in anyone, let alone his own child. Tell me, Naruto said. Tell me everything. Riku met his father's gaze. For a moment, the mask of the Hollow One slipped entirely, and he was just a boy, a broken, exhausted boy who had carried an impossible weight for too long. It starts with a war, Riku said. A war that hasn't happened yet. A war I came back to stop. The story Riku told took hours. Or perhaps it took moments. Time had no meaning in the place between. Naruto and Mulan listened, holding each other, as their son unfolded a future that hadn't yet come to pass. It began, as so many tragedies do, with good intentions. In Riku's timeline, he grew up loved. Naruto and Mulan raised him with all the warmth and wisdom they possessed. He learned ninjutsu from his father, swordsmanship from his mother. He became powerful, more powerful than either of them, because he inherited the best of both worlds. By 16, he was already being spoken of as a future Hokage. But power attracts enemies. And Riku's enemies weren't content to attack him directly. They targeted the village, Riku said, his voice flat, as if reciting events that had happened to someone else. A coalition of lesser nations, jealous of Konoha's strength. They couldn't defeat you, father, so they found another way. They found her. Mulan's hand tightened on Naruto's arm. Who? Grandmother. Granny Fa. Riku's composure cracked, just slightly. She was old. Frail. Living quietly in the land of valleys, far from any conflict. They didn't even have to send shinobi. Just a single assassin. A knife in the night. Mulan made a sound of pure anguish. Naruto pulled her closer, his own heart breaking. I wasn't there. Riku continued, his voice growing rougher. I was on a mission. By the time I got home, she was gone. And then... He stopped, gathering himself. And then Mother fell ill. Grief, the healers said. A broken heart. There was nothing they could do. Within a year, she was gone too. Mulan was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Naruto held her, but his eyes never left his son's face. I changed after that, Riku said. I became obsessed with preventing loss. With protecting everyone, no matter the cost. I developed new techniques, including the one you saw at Tsubakigawa. A space-time ninjutsu that could erase threats before they materialized. I called it Muon Jutsu. The soundless technique. The erasure. Naruto breathed. You weren't killing them. You were unmaking them. Preventing them. Riku corrected. In my mind, it was the ultimate protection. If a threat never existed, it could never hurt anyone. But the technique had a cost. Every use consumed a piece of me. My memories. My emotions. My connection to who I was. He touched the crack in the mask he still held. I started wearing this to hide what I was becoming. But the crack showed anyway. They always show. What happened next? Naruto asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Riku's eyes grew distant. I went too far. I started erasing not just threats, but anyone who might become a threat. Anyone who disagreed with me. Anyone who looked at me wrong. The other villagers called me a demon. Konoha tried to stop me. And in the end... He looked directly at Naruto. In the end, you stopped me, father. You fought me. And you won. The frozen moment beside them shifted, and Naruto saw it, a battle between himself and Riku, both older, both bleeding, both destroying each other in a desperate struggle. In the image, Naruto's fist pierced Riku's chest. He looked away, sick. I didn't die, Riku said quietly. But I should have. Instead, I fell into the place between. And here, I found something I never expected. What? Answers. Riku gestured at the frozen moments around them. I can see all timelines here. All possibilities. And I discovered that my descent into darkness wasn't inevitable. It was manufactured. Mulan looked up, her tear-streaked face sharpening with attention. What do you mean? There was a manipulator. Someone who orchestrated everything, Granny Fa's death, your illness, the Coalition's attack. Someone who wanted to create the Hollow One, to use me as a weapon against Konoha. Riku's jaw tightened. I don't know who. The timeline fragments are unclear. But I know they're still active. Still planning. In this timeline, in the present, they're already moving. The attack on Tsubakigawa, Naruto said. You did that to get my attention. To warn me. Riku nodded. I couldn't just appear and explain. The manipulator would know. They're watching, father. Always watching. I had to create a mystery that would force you to investigate, to seek answers, to eventually find your way here. It was the only way to speak without being observed. But you hurt people, Mulan said, her voice hard despite her tears. You killed 37 people at that outpost. The pain that crossed Riku's face was raw and real. I know. And I'll carry that guilt forever. But I had to make it real. I had to make it something you couldn't ignore. He met his mother's eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for help. Help with what? Naruto asked. Riku stepped closer, and for a moment, he was just a son seeking his father's strength. Help me find the manipulator before they succeed. Before they turn me into the Hollow One in this timeline too. Before I lose you both again. His voice broke on the last words. I can't go through that again. I can't become that again. Please. Naruto looked at his son, this broken, time-lost version of his little boy, and felt something shift inside him. The horror was still there. The grief, the confusion, the barely contained rage at what had been done to his family. But beneath it all, stronger than any of it, was love. He reached out and placed a hand on Riku's shoulder. We'll find them, he said. Together. That's what family does. Riku's composure finally shattered. He fell into his father's arms, and Naruto held him, feeling the years of pain and isolation and desperate hope that his son had carried alone. Mulan wrapped her arms around both of them, and for a long moment, they simply existed, father, mother, son, in the place between worlds, where time had no meaning and love was the only constant. When they finally separated, Riku wiped his eyes and took a breath. There's more, he said. About the manipulator. About what they want. And about why I can't stay here long. Naruto's expression hardened. Tell us. Riku pointed at the swirling lights around them. Every moment I spend in this timeline, I risk damaging it. My presence here, my older, timeline-displaced presence, creates distortions. The manipulator can track them. If I stay too long, I'll lead them straight to you. Then we'll be ready for them, Naruto said. It's not that simple. They're not a person, father. Not exactly. They're a presence. An idea. A corruption that exists in the space between timelines. The only way to stop them permanently is to find the source, the original moment where they entered our world, and seal it. And you know where that moment is? Riku nodded slowly. In your timeline, it hasn't happened yet. But it will. Soon. At the convergence of two events, the rising tension with Kusugakure, and something else. Something involving me. The real me, Mulan said quietly. Our Riku. The 4-year-old. Riku met her eyes. Yes. The manipulator needs me, the younger me, to complete their plan. They need to break him the way they broke me in my timeline. To turn him into the weapon they wanted. Naruto's chakra flared, instinctive and protective. Over my dead body. That's exactly what they're counting on, Riku said. If you fight them head-on, you'll lose. They've studied you, father. They know every move you'll make, every tactic you'll use. The only way to win is to do something they can't predict. And what's that? Riku looked at both of them, his blue eyes, Naruto's eyes, filled with a complex mixture of hope, fear, and determination. Trust me. Even though I'm the monster from another timeline. Even though I've done terrible things. Trust that I can help protect the child I used to be. He swallowed hard. Trust that I'm still your son. The silence stretched between them. Naruto looked at Mulan, saw her processing, weighing, deciding. Then she stepped forward and took Riku's hand. You are my son, she said simply. Not the one I raised, not yet. But still my son. And a mother's trust is not so easily broken. Rika's eyes glistened. He looked at Naruto. Naruto thought of all the people who had trusted him when he was at his worst. Irika, who saw past the demon. Jiraiya, who believed in the child of prophecy. Sasuke, who forgave him for never giving up. If they could trust the monster he might have become, how could he do less for his own flesh and blood? Tell us the plan, Naruto said. And in the place between worlds, surrounded by frozen moments of joy and sorrow, a family began to fight back against the darkness that sought to tear them apart. They emerged from the canyon as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Riku had returned to the place between. He couldn't remain in the physical world for more than a few hours without creating distortions, but he would watch, wait, and appear when the moment was right. Naruto and Mulan began the journey back to Konoha, their minds churning with everything they'd learned. A manipulator from outside time. A plot to corrupt their son. A war that hadn't yet begun but was already being lost. We can't tell anyone the full truth, Naruto said as they walked. Not yet. If this manipulator is watching, we need to act normal. Continue the investigation. Let them think we're still in the dark. Mulan nodded. But we need allies we can trust implicitly. People who can help without understanding everything. Sasuke. Sakura. Shikamaru. Naruto ticked them off. Maybe Kakashi. Anyone else? Mulan was quiet for a moment. The ancestors, she said finally. The spirits of my homeland. They helped me once, long ago. If this threat spans timelines, if it's as old as Rika suggests, they might know something. Naruto looked at her, surprised. In all their years together, Mulan rarely spoke of her connection to the spiritual world. It was a part of her past she'd left behind when she chose to build a future with him. You'd do that? Reach out to them again? Mulan's expression was determined. For Riku? For our family? I'd do anything. They walked on in silence, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. But beneath the weight, something else stirred, a fragile, stubborn hope. They had faced impossible odds before. They had won before. This time would be no different. Behind them, in the canyon where two worlds touched, a figure in a white mask watched them go. Rika's eyes, visible through the crack, held a complex mixture of emotions: love, grief, fear, and something else. Something that looked almost like peace. He hadn't been held by his parents in decades. He hadn't felt their love, their acceptance, their unwavering faith in him. For the first time since becoming the Hollow One, he remembered what it felt like to be someone's son. It was terrifying. It was painful. It was the most beautiful thing he'd ever felt. Thank you, he whispered to the fading light. Thank you for still believing in me. Then he turned and walked back into the place between, ready to wait as long as necessary, ready to fight when the time came. Ready to protect the child he used to be from the monster he'd become. For weeks passed in Konoha like water through cupped hands, constant, necessary, impossible to hold. Naruto threw himself into the facade of normalcy with the same determination he'd once used to master the Rasengan. He attended council meetings, reviewed border reports, smiled for the photographers who documented the Hokage's daily life. But those closest to him noticed the changes. The way his eyes would drift to the window during conversations. The new lines etched around his mouth. The occasional tremor in his hands when he thought no one was watching. Mulan remained in the village, officially as a diplomatic guest from the land of valleys, unofficially as the only other person who shared Naruto's impossible burden. She spent her days in the Hokage's private quarters, studying the scrolls Rika had given them before returning to the place between, fragments of information about the manipulator, written in a hand that was both familiar and foreign. Sasuke knew something was wrong the moment he returned from a solo mission to find Naruto waiting for him at the village gate. Not waiting officially, with escort and ceremony, but waiting alone, leaning against a tree, arms crossed, eyes shadowed. We need to talk, Naruto said. You, me, Sakura, Shikamaru. Tonight. My place. Sasuke's Sharingan didn't need to activate to read the gravity in his oldest friend's face. The figure? Naruto nodded once, sharply. Everything. That night, in the small house Naruto shared with Mulan when she visited, 4 people sat around a low table and listened to a story that defied everything they thought they knew about time, space, and the nature of reality. When Naruto finished, the silence was absolute. Shikamaru spoke first, because Shikamaru always spoke first when the silence became too heavy. Let me make sure I understand. Your son, your 4-year-old son, is actually a time-displaced adult from a future where he became a villain after you and Mulan died. That future version is now hiding in a dimensional pocket, trying to prevent a cosmic manipulator from turning his younger self into the same monster. And this manipulator is somehow connected to the rising tension with Kusugakure. That's approximately accurate, Mulan said. Approximately. Shikamaru pinched the bridge of his nose. Naruto, this is the most troublesome thing you've ever told me, and I've been through a lot with you. Sakura, who had been unnaturally still throughout the explanation, finally spoke. The soldier from Tsubakigawa. The chakra depletion. The geometric pattern. If Riku's technique erases existence, then the soldier wasn't just wounded, he was partially unmade. Riku's voice echoed in Naruto's memory. Every use consumed a piece of me. The technique has a cost. Riku said it takes pieces of the user too. Memories. Emotions. Identity. Which means every time he used it, he lost a part of himself. Sakura murmured, her medical mind already working through implications. By the time he became the Hollow One, there might not have been much of the original Riku left. Mulan's expression tightened, but she said nothing. Sasuke, who had been leaning against the wall with his eyes closed, opened them. The manipulator. What do we know about it? Almost nothing, Naruto admitted. Riku couldn't give us details. The timeline fragments are unclear. But he said it's not a person, it's a presence. A corruption that exists between timelines. A corruption that needs our Riku to complete its plan, Mulan added. It needs to break him. To turn him into the weapon it wanted in the other timeline. Then we protect him, Sakura said simply. We keep him safe, we keep him loved, we make sure he never has reason to break. Shikamaru shook his head slowly. It's not that simple. If this manipulator exists outside normal time, it can attack from angles we can't predict. It could be influencing events right now that we don't recognize as attacks. The border tension with Kusugakure, what if that's part of its plan? What if everything happening right now is designed to create the conditions for Riku's fall? The thought hung in the air like poison. Naruto's hands curled into fists on his knees. Then we need to find it before it finds him. We need to go on offense. Offense against what? Sasuke asked quietly. We can't fight something we can't see, can't touch, can't understand. No, Mulan agreed. But we can fight its tools. Its agents. Whatever it's using to manipulate events in this timeline. Shikamaru's eyes sharpened. You're suggesting we investigate the border conflict as if it's a crime scene. Look for evidence of outside manipulation. Exactly. Sasuke pushed off from the wall. I'll go. Kusugakure's militant faction. If someone's pulling their strings, I'll find it. I'm coming with you, Sakura said. If there's medical evidence of manipulation, strange chakra signatures, unexplained physical changes, I'll recognize it. Naruto nodded. Shikamaru, you coordinate from here. Keep the council focused on normal diplomatic channels. If anyone asks, Sasuke and Sakura are on a routine reconnaissance mission. And you? Shikamaru asked. Naruto looked at Mulan. We go to the land of valleys. We see our son. We act like nothing's wrong, while watching for anything, anyone, who might be trying to get close to him. Mulan's hand found his under the table. And the other Riku? The one in the place between? He said he'd contact us when the moment was right. Until then, we wait. We watch. We trust him. The words felt inadequate, fragile against the enormity of what they faced. But they were all they had. The land of valleys hadn't changed in the months since Mulan left. The same rolling hills, the same terrace farms, the same peaceful villages where the greatest excitement was the annual harvest festival. But to Mulan, everything felt different now, every shadow potentially hiding an enemy, every stranger a possible agent of the manipulator. Granny Fa met them at the gate of the family estate, her aged face breaking into a smile at the sight of her granddaughter. Mulan! And Naruto! You should have sent word, I would have prepared a feast. There's no need, grandmother, Mulan said, embracing her warmly. We had business nearby and couldn't pass up the chance to see Riku. Ah, the little whirlwind. Granny Fa's eyes twinkled. He's been asking about you every day. When is Mama coming home? When is Baba coming home? Over and over, like a song he can't stop singing. Naruto's heart clenched. Where is he? In the back garden. Watching his butterflies. They found him exactly where Granny Fa said, a small figure sitting cross-legged in the grass, surrounded by a cloud of butterflies that seemed utterly unafraid of him. His blonde hair caught the afternoon sun, and his blue eyes were fixed on the insects with an intensity that reminded Naruto painfully of the way Riku, the older Riku, had looked at them in the place between. Riku! Mulan called softly. He turned, and his face transformed. Mama! Alibaba! He was running before they could react, small legs pumping, arms outstretched. Naruto caught him and swung him into the air, laughing despite everything, because this moment, this child, this pure and simple joy, was what he was fighting for. Riku's arms wrapped around Naruto's neck with surprising strength. You came back! You came back! Of course we did, little warrior, Naruto murmured into his hair. We'll always come back. For the rest of the day, they were just a family. They played in the garden, ate Granny Fa's cooking, listened to Rika's endless stories about the butterflies and the neighbor's cat, and the dream he'd had about a sad man who took off his mask. When he mentioned the dream, Mulan's eyes met Naruto's, but neither of them commented. That night, after Riku was asleep, they sat on the porch and watched the stars emerge. He's been having those dreams for weeks, Granny Fa said quietly, joining them. About a man in a mask. He says the man is sad, but not scary. He says the man is family. Mulan's breath caught. Grandmother, has anyone unusual come through the village lately? Strangers? Travelers? Granny Fa considered. A few. Traders, mostly. But there was one, a woman, about a month ago. She asked about you, about Naruto. Said she was a friend from Konoha, just passing through. I didn't think much of it at the time. Naruto leaned forward. What did she look like? Plain. Forgettable. Brown hair, brown eyes, average height. The kind of face you'd pass in a crowd and never remember. Granny Fa's eyes narrowed. Why? Is something wrong? Mulan and Naruto exchanged a look. In their world, a forgettable face was often the most dangerous kind. Probably nothing, Mulan said carefully. But if anyone else comes asking about us, send word immediately. Use the hawk. Naruto left. Granny Fa studied them for a long moment, her aged eyes sharp despite their years. You're in trouble. We're handling it, Naruto said. That's not what I asked. She reached out and took Mulan's hand. I've raised warriors. I've sent them to war. I've buried some of them. I know the look of people carrying a weight too heavy for their shoulders. Her gaze moved to Naruto. Whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone. Mulan's composure cracked, just slightly. Grandmother. No. Listen to me. Granny Fa's voice was firm. I may be old. I may not understand your world of shinobi and chakra. But I understand family. And I understand that secrets can poison even the strongest bonds. She squeezed Mulan's hand. Whatever you're facing, face it together. All of you. That includes me, if you'll let it. Naruto looked at this woman, this fierce, loving, impossibly strong woman who had raised the warrior he married, and felt something shift in his chest. They'd been carrying the secret alone, he and Mulan, afraid that involving others would put them in danger. But Granny Fa was already in danger. They all were. Slowly, carefully, Naruto began to talk. 3 days later, in Kusagakure, Sasuke and Sakura moved through the village like ghosts. The village hidden in the grass lived up to its name, buildings half swallowed by vegetation, streets that seemed to shift depending on the time of day, an overall atmosphere of impermanence that made it difficult to get your bearings. But Sasuke's Sharingan didn't rely on bearings, and Sakura's chakra sense was sharp enough to pierce any illusion. The militant faction controls the northern district, Sakura murmured as they paused on a rooftop. According to intel, their leader is a man named Kagami, former ANBU, radicalized after his family died in a border skirmish 5 years ago. Convenient, Sasuke replied. A man with a grudge, easily manipulated. They moved closer to the northern district, and Sakura's chakra sense began to prick with unease. Sasuke. There's something wrong here. Define wrong. The chakra signatures. They are uniform. Too uniform. Like everyone in that compound is resonating at the same frequency. Sasuke's Sharingan spun to life, and he saw it too, a subtle pulsing, like a heartbeat, connecting every person in the district below. It wasn't natural. It wasn't any technique he recognized. Puppets, he breathed. They're all puppets. Not literal puppets. The people below moved and talked and breathed like normal humans. But their chakra was synchronized, controlled, as if someone had reached into each of them and twisted something fundamental. We need to get inside, Sakura said. They found a way, a supply delivery, the guards distracted, a moment of inattention that Sasuke exploited with his usual precision. Inside the compound, the wrongness intensified. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with that same synchronized rhythm, and Sakura felt her own chakra attempting to align with it, fighting to maintain its independence. There, Sasuke whispered, pointing to a building at the compound's center. That's the source. They crept closer, and through a window, they saw him, Kagami, the militant leader, standing before a strange altar. On the altar rested a fragment of something that seemed to absorb light, similar to the cloth they'd found at Tsubakigawa, but larger. More active. And standing beside Kagami, partially obscured by shadow, was a figure. Plain. Forgettable. Brown hair, brown eyes, average height. The woman from the land of valleys. Sakura's hand found Sasuke's arm, squeezing in warning. They couldn't hear the conversation, but they could see the woman's lips moving, see Kagami nodding, see him reach out and touch the fragment on the altar. When he did, the synchronized pulsing intensified, and both Sasuke and Sakura felt their chakra lurch in response. "We have to stop this," Sakura breathed. "Not yet." Sasuke's voice was hard. "We need to know what that fragment is. Where it came from. Who that woman is. And if we lose them? We won't." He pointed to a small mark on the woman's neck, barely visible, easy to miss. "I tagged her with a tracking seal when she moved. We can follow her after." They watched for another hour, gathering what intelligence they could. Then, as dawn began to lighten the sky, they retreated, carrying with them the weight of what they'd seen. The manipulator wasn't just influencing events from afar. It had agents. Tools. And those tools were already in motion. Riku, the young Riku, woke from another dream with tears on his face. He didn't know why he was crying. The dream had been nice, really. The sad man had taken off his mask and smiled at him, and for a moment, Riku had felt such love, such warmth, such aching familiarity that his 4-year-old heart couldn't contain it. But then the sad man had faded, and Riku had reached for him, and his hands had passed through empty air. "Why are you sad?" he whispered to the darkness. "Because I miss you," a voice answered, not aloud, but in his mind, soft and familiar. "Because I miss being you." Riku sat up in bed, wide awake now. "You're the dream man." "I'm the sad man, yes." "Are you real?" A pause. "Then, I'm as real as you want me to be." Riku considered this with the simple logic of childhood. "I want you to be real. Then you wouldn't be so lonely." The silence that followed was so long that Riku thought the voice had gone. But finally, softly, it returned. "You remind me of someone. Someone I used to be, a long time ago." "Who?" "Someone who believed that love could fix anything. Someone who hadn't learned yet that some things are too broken to fix." Riku frowned. "That's silly. Nothing's too broken to fix. Baba says so." "Your Baba is a very wise man." "I know." Riku lay back down, pulling his blanket to his chin. "Will you stay? Until I fall asleep?" Another pause. When the voice spoke again, it trembled. "I'll stay. I'll always stay." And in the place between worlds, a broken man in a cracked mask watched over his younger self, and remembered what it felt like to be loved. Sasuke and Sakura returned to Konoha 5 days later, their findings laid out in a report that Shikamaru read 3 times before setting it down. "A fragment that controls chakra. A mysterious woman appearing in multiple locations. A militant leader who's essentially a puppet." Shikamaru rubbed his temples. "This is bigger than we thought." "It's connected," Sasuke said. "The fragment, the woman, the border conflict, it's all connected to whatever's manipulating Riku's timeline." Sakura added, "I analyzed the chakra signature from the fragment as best I could from a distance. It's not human. It's not even really chakra, it's something else that's learned to mimic chakra. Something ancient." Naruto, who had returned from the land of valleys the previous day, listened in silence. Mulan sat beside him, her hand in his. "The woman," Naruto said. "You tracked her?" Sasuke nodded. "She left Kusugakure 2 days ago. Heading east. Toward the land of valleys." The room went cold. Mulan's grip tightened on Naruto's hand. "She's going after Riku." "Then we go after her," Naruto said, rising. "Sasuke, Sakura, with me. Shikamaru, coordinate with the border patrol. If this woman has allies in Kusugakure, they might move while we're distracted." Shikamaru was already unrolling maps. "I'll have intel sweep the entire region. If there are more fragments like the one in Kusugakure, we'll find them." Naruto paused at the door. "And the older Riku? Should we try to contact him?" Mulan considered. "He said he'd come when the moment was right. Maybe this is that moment. Or maybe he can't," Sakura said quietly. "If this woman is connected to the manipulator, she might be able to sense him. Track him. If he appears while she's near young Riku, he could lead her straight to him." Naruto finished. "Damn." Mulan stood, her warriors' bearing settling over her like armor. "Then we handle this ourselves. We protect our son. We capture this woman. And we find out exactly who or what we're dealing with." Naruto looked at his wife, this woman who had faced armies and won, who had crossed worlds for love, who now stood ready to face a threat beyond mortal understanding. Together, he said. Together, she agreed. They moved as one, out of the room, out of the building, toward whatever waited in the east. Behind them, Shikamaru began issuing orders, and Sasuke and Sakura fell into formation beside their friends. And in the place between worlds, a broken man watched through eyes that had seen too much, and waited for the moment when he would have to choose between protecting his past and saving his future. The moment was coming soon. He could feel it. They all could. Next. Chapter 5: The Woman with No Face. The road to the land of valleys wound through forests that thickened with every mile, ancient trees whose roots delved deep into earth that had never known shinobi warfare. Naruto moved through them like a ghost, Mulan at his side, Sasuke and Sakura fanning out behind. They traveled through the night, pushing hard, unwilling to risk even hours of delay. Dawn broke over the eastern mountains as they approached the final ridge. Beyond it lay the FA estate. Beyond it lay Riku. Naruto's chakra sense expanded, searching, probing. And there, faint but unmistakable, a wrongness. A presence that didn't belong. She's here, he breathed. Mulan's hand went to her sword. How close? The estate's eastern border. Near the old meditation garden. Naruto's jaw tightened. She's not moving. Waiting. For us, Sasuke said. She knows we're coming. Then let's not keep her waiting. They descended the ridge in formation, Naruto taking point, Mulan slightly behind and to his left, the position they developed over years of fighting together, a dance of trust and precision. Sasuke and Sakura covered the flanks, ready to respond to any threat. The meditation garden was a small clearing surrounded by flowering trees, a place where Granny Fa came to sit and remember her youth. But today, the peace was shattered by the figure standing at its center. She was exactly as Granny Fa had described and Sasuke had confirmed, plain, forgettable, average in every way. Brown hair pulled back in a simple style. Brown eyes that held no particular warmth or coldness. Clothes that could have belonged to any farmer's wife or merchant's daughter. But her presence screamed wrongness. Her chakra didn't fluctuate like a living thing's, it pulsed in perfect, mechanical rhythm, synchronized to something none of them could sense. You came, she said. Her voice matched her appearance, unremarkable, easily forgotten. I wasn't sure you would. Where is my son? Naruto's voice was low, dangerous. Safe. For now. The woman tilted her head, studying them with an expression that might have been curiosity. I'm not here to hurt him. I'm here to offer him a choice. Mulan stepped forward, her sword half drawn. What choice? The same choice every great warrior faces. The choice between who he is and who he could become. The woman's eyes, those forgettable brown eyes, seemed to deepen, to darken. You of all people should understand, Fa Mulan. You once chose to become someone else to save what you loved. Mulan's grip tightened on her sword. That was different. Was it? The woman smiled, and the expression was wrong, too practiced, too deliberate, like someone who had learned what smiles look like without ever feeling one. You pretended to be a man. You lied to your family, your comrades, your entire army. You became someone else entirely. And in doing so, you saved your father, your country, your future. She spread her hands. I'm offering your son the same opportunity. To become someone else. To save everything he loves. By becoming a monster, Naruto snarled. The woman's gaze shifted to him, and for the first time, something flickered in those flat brown eyes. Recognition. Interest. Monster. She tasted the word. Such a subjective term. Your own village called you a monster once, Naruto Uzumaki. They feared you, hated you, wished you had never been born. And yet here you stand, Hokage, hero, husband, father. Was the monster ever real? Or was it just a name given to power that others couldn't understand? Naruto felt the words strike home despite himself. His childhood flashed through his mind, the turnbacks, the whispered curses, the eyes that looked at him and saw only the beast inside. He knew what it was to be called monster. He knew the weight of that word. But he also knew the difference. I chose who I wanted to become, he said. Every day I chose. No one made that choice for me. Exactly. The woman's smile widened. And I'm offering your son the same gift. The chance to choose. To become something greater than either of you could imagine. Sakura stepped forward, her medical training overriding her caution. You're not making any sense. Who are you? What are you? The woman turned those forgettable eyes on Sakura, and something in her expression shifted, softened, almost. Ah, the healer. The one who loves so fiercely she would tear apart the fabric of reality itself to save those she cares about. She tilted her head. You remind me of someone I used to know. Someone I used to be, perhaps. It's hard to remember. Remember what? Sasuke's voice cut through like a blade. The woman looked at him, and for a moment, just a moment, her composure cracked. Beneath the plain, forgettable features, something ancient and terrible flickered. You, she breathed. The Avenger. The one who walked through darkness and somehow found his way back. Her eyes widened, and for an instant, they weren't brown anymore. They swirled with colors that didn't exist in nature, violets and golds and silvers like the light in the canyon. You almost succeeded, you know. In the other timeline. You almost stopped me. Sasuke's Sharingan spun to life. What other timeline? But the woman's composure was already rebuilding, the ancient thing retreating behind forgettable features. Not yet. You're not ready yet. None of you are. She looked past them, toward the estate, toward Riku. But he is. He's always been ready. From the moment he was born, in two worlds at once, carrying the potential of both, he's been ready for this. Mulan's sword slid free of its sheath. You stay away from my son. The woman laughed, a sound that was almost human, almost warm, but not quite. I can't stay away from him any more than I can stay away from myself. We're connected, your son and I. More deeply than you know. A rustle in the trees behind her. A small figure, blonde hair catching the dawn light, blue eyes wide with curiosity rather than fear. Riku. Mama? Baba? He stepped into the clearing, oblivious to the danger. I heard voices. Who's the lady? The woman turned to face him, and her expression transformed. The wrongness faded. The mechanical quality softened. For just an instant, she looked almost human, almost kind. Hello, little one, she said. I've been wanting to meet you for a very long time. Riku studied her with the unnerving directness of a child. You're the lady from my dreams. The one who watches. Among other things, yes. Are you the sad man's friend? The woman's breath caught, a tiny, almost imperceptible hitch. The sad man? Riku nodded solemnly. He wears a mask. He's lonely. He misses his family. He tilted his head, mirroring the woman's earlier gesture. He misses you, I think. Even though he doesn't know your name. The silence that followed was absolute. Naruto couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His son was speaking to this thing, with the same openness he showed to everyone, and somehow, impossibly, he was describing the older Riku with perfect accuracy. The woman's eyes, those flat, forgettable eyes, glistened. With tears? With something else? You see more than you should, little one, she whispered. More than anyone should. That's what Mama says. Riku smiled, completely unafraid. She says I have Baba's eyes in her heart, and together they see everything. The woman's composure shattered. Not dramatically, no sobbing, no collapse, but in smaller ways. Her shoulders dropped. Her hands unclenched. The mechanical pulse of her chakra stuttered, faltered, became something almost organic. Your mother is very wise, she said. Wiser than she knows. She looked at Mulan, and for the first time, there was something real in her gaze. Respect. Perhaps even affection. You raised him well. In every timeline, every possibility, every version of existence, you always raise him well. Mulan's sword wavered. What are you? The woman smiled, a real smile this time, sad and knowing. I'm what's left when everything else is gone. I'm the echo that remains after the music stops. She looked back at Riku. I'm what your son could become, if he makes the wrong choice. And what he could save, if he makes the right one. She reached into her robe and withdrew something, a fragment, like the one in Kusagakure, but smaller. More refined. It pulsed with that same wrong light, but softer now, almost gentle. This is a piece of me, she said. A piece of what I was before I became this. I've been placing them throughout your world, creating connections, building a network. Not to control, to communicate. To find someone who could hear me. And my son can hear you? Naruto asked. Your son can hear everything. The past, the present, the future. The timelines that were, the timelines that could be, the timelines that will never exist. He hears them all. She held out the fragment. This will help him understand. Help him choose. Choose what? Mulan demanded. The woman looked at her, and her eyes were ancient now, filled with the weight of eons. Whether to become the weapon that destroys everything, or the bridge that saves it. She placed the fragment on the ground between them and stepped back. I won't force him. I never could. That's not how this works. She looked at Rika one last time. You have until the convergence. 3 days from now, when the moons align and the barriers thin. Then you must choose, little one. We all must choose. She began to fade, literally, her form dissolving at the edges, becoming translucent. Wait! Naruto lunged forward, but his hands passed through empty air. Who are you? Tell us your name! The woman's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, fading like morning mist. I don't remember my name. I've been alone too long. But once, a long time ago, in a world very different from this one, I had another name. A name you might recognize. Her final words hung in the air long after she vanished. I was called Kaguya. The silence that followed her disappearance was broken by Rika's small voice. Mama, why is the pretty lady crying? Mulan knelt and gathered him into her arms, holding him tight. Was she crying, little one? In her heart. Rika pressed a hand to his chest. Right here. It's all sad and empty, like the sad man's heart. But different. Older. He looked up at his mother with those two perceptive blue eyes. Can we help her, Mama? Can we help them both? Mulan didn't know how to answer. She looked at Naruto, saw her own confusion and fear reflected in his face. Kaguya. The name was legend even in the shinobi world, the rabbit goddess, the progenitor of chakra, the mother of the sage of six paths. The being Naruto and Sasuke had fought and sealed at the end of the fourth great ninja war. But that Kaguya was sealed away, trapped in another dimension, unable to affect the world. This woman, this thing, was something else. A piece of her? An echo? A version from another timeline? She said she was what's left when everything else is gone. Sakura murmured, her medical mind already working. An echo after the music stops. What if? She stopped, hesitant. What if what? Sasuke prompted. What if the Kaguya we sealed wasn't the only Kaguya? What if there are fragments of her scattered across timelines, across dimensions, each one carrying a piece of what she was? Shikamaru would have loved this, Sakura thought absently. A puzzle that spanned existence itself. But Shikamaru wasn't here, and the pieces were too vast, too strange, too terrifying to fully comprehend. She said Rika has to choose, Naruto said slowly. In 3 days. At the convergence. What convergence? Mulan asked. Sasuke answered, his voice flat. The place where two worlds touch. The canyon. In 3 days, the moons align in a way that happens once every century. The barriers between dimensions thin to almost nothing. She wants to take him there. Sakura breathed. She wants him at the convergence. Or she wants us there. Naruto countered. With him. For whatever choice he has to make. Riku squirmed in Mulan's arms. Mama, you're holding too tight. Mulan loosened her grip but didn't let go. She couldn't let go. Not now, not when the universe itself seemed to be reaching for her son. Naruto. Her voice was steady, but he knew her well enough to hear the tremor beneath. What do we do? He looked at his family, his wife, his son, his oldest friends, and felt the weight of every choice he'd ever made pressing down on him. He'd faced pain. He'd faced Obito. He'd faced Madara and Kaguya and threats that should have destroyed him. But this was different. This wasn't about saving the world. This was about saving his child from a fate that existed across all of time and space. We go to the convergence, he said. All of us. We face whatever's there together. And the older Riku? Sasuke asked quietly. Naruto met his gaze. He said he'd come when the moment was right. I think this is the moment. That night, after Riku was asleep and Granny Fa had been briefed on enough of the truth to understand the danger, the 5 of them gathered in the small house that had become their command post. Shikamaru had arrived via summoning, a small hawk delivering his written analysis while he coordinated from Konoha. His message was characteristically thorough. The fragment in Kusagakure has been contained. Kagami and his militants are in custody, their chakra slowly returning to normal now that they're separated from the fragment's influence. Preliminary analysis suggests the fragments act as anchors. They don't control directly, but they create a resonance that makes control possible. Remove the anchor, break the connection. More importantly, Intel has identified similar fragments in 3 other locations, all along the border, all placed within the last month. The pattern suggests a network, a web designed to encompass the entire region. The center of that web? The canyon. The convergence. Whoever, whatever, this woman is, she's been planning this for longer than we know. Be careful. Be very careful. Also, I've notified the council that you're on a mission of utmost importance. They're not happy about the secrecy, but they're used to it by now. Just try not to destroy any more international relations. Shikamaru. Naruto set the message aside. 3 days. We have 3 days to prepare for something we don't understand. We understand more than we did, Sasuke said. The woman, Kagaya's echo, wants Riku at the convergence. She wants him to choose something. And she's spent months placing fragments to create conditions we can't yet see. The other Riku, Sakura said. The older one. He said the manipulator wasn't a person but a presence. A corruption. What if that presence is this echo? What if she's the one manipulating everything? But she said she wasn't forcing Riku to choose, Mulan protested. She said she never could. Manipulation doesn't require force, Sasuke replied. It requires creating conditions where only one choice seems possible. She's been doing that for months, maybe longer. The border tension, the fragments, the network, it's all designed to create a situation where Riku's choice is predetermined. Naruto shook his head slowly. That doesn't fit. Why reveal herself? Why talk to us, to Riku, in a way that let us see her as something other than pure evil? No one had an answer. Mulan stood and walked to the window, looking out at the night sky. 3 moons hung above, smaller than the ones she'd grown up with, but familiar now. In 3 days, they would align, and everything would change. Maybe she's not evil, she said quietly. Maybe she's just broken. Like the older Riku is broken. Like anyone becomes when they've lost everything and been alone too long. And maybe that makes her more dangerous, Sakura said. Not less. Agreed. Naruto stood and moved to his wife's side, slipping an arm around her waist. But it also means she might be reachable. Might be savable. He looked at the moons. That's what I do. That's who I am. I reach people everyone else gives up on. Even if that person wants to take our son? Naruto was silent for a long moment. Then quietly. Especially then. Because if I can reach her, if I can understand her, maybe I can stop whatever's coming without losing anyone. Mulan leaned into him, drawing strength from his warmth. And if you can't? Then we fight. Together. Like we always have. Behind them, Sasuke and Sakura exchanged a look, a conversation without words, built over decades of partnership. They would follow Naruto into any battle, against any foe. They always had. They always would. But this battle felt different. This battle felt like it might demand more than they could give. In the place between worlds, the older Riku watched his younger self sleep. The boy's face was peaceful, untroubled by the weight of choices he didn't yet know he'd have to make. His chakra pulsed gently, a soft rhythm that spoke of health and happiness, and the simple joy of being loved. Riku, the broken one, the hollow one, felt tears slide down his face beneath his mask. He'd watched this child for weeks now, ever since revealing himself to his parents. He'd seen him laugh and play and chase butterflies. He'd heard him ask about the sad man with the kind heart. He'd felt the love that surrounded him like armor, protecting him from the world's cruelty. And he knew, with the terrible certainty of someone who had lived through it, that in 3 days, that armor would be tested as never before. The echo of Kagaya. He'd sensed her the moment she entered this timeline, felt her ancient presence like a splinter in reality itself. In his timeline, she hadn't appeared until after he'd become the Hollow One, and by then, it was too late to understand her, to reach her, to do anything but fight. But here, now, there was still time. Still chance. Still hope. If he could find the courage to face her. If he could find the words to make her remember who she'd been before the loneliness consumed her. If he could be more than the monster he'd become. Riku reached out through the fabric of reality, letting his consciousness brush against hers. It was like touching starlight, ancient, vast, and possibly distant, but beneath the vastness, beneath the eons of isolation, he felt something familiar. Loneliness. Grief. The desperate, aching need for connection. I know you, he sent. I know what it is to lose everything. To be alone. To forget who you were. A long pause. Then, faintly, her voice returned. Then you know why I have to do this. I know why you think you have to. But you're wrong. There's another way. There is no other way. I've looked. For longer than you can imagine, I've looked. You haven't looked here. You haven't looked at him. Rick has sent an image of his younger self, sleeping peacefully. He sees you. Not as a monster, not as a threat, as someone sad who needs help. He wants to help you. They all do. Silence. Then, so faintly he almost missed it. They shouldn't. I've done terrible things. So have I. Rika's thought was heavy with grief. So have we all. But that doesn't mean we can't change. That doesn't mean we can't choose differently. Another long pause. When her voice returned, it was different, softer, younger, almost human. I don't remember how to choose. It's been so long. Then let me help you remember. Let us help you. That's what family does. The connection faded, but not before Riku felt something shift in the ancient presence, a crack, like the one in his mask, letting light through. He looked down at his younger self one last time. Hold on, little one, he whispered. I'm coming. 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and prayer. Granny Fa meditated in her garden, calling on ancestors whose names she'd learned as a child. Sakura prepared medical supplies for injuries she couldn't imagine. Sasuke sat in perfect stillness, centering his chakra, preparing for battle. Mulan sharpened her sword and reviewed every combat technique she'd ever learned. And Naruto spent time with his son. They played in the garden, chased butterflies, told stories about the Hokage's greatest adventures. Riku laughed and asked questions and demanded to hear his favorite story, the one about how Baba met Mama, at least 4 times. But on the 3rd night, as the moons began their slow alignment, Riku grew quiet. Baba? He looked up at Naruto with those 2 perceptive blue eyes. Will the sad man be there tomorrow? Naruto hesitated. I think so, little warrior. Will he still be sad? I hope not. I hope we can help him not be sad anymore. Riku nodded seriously. Me too. He's been sad for too long. He was quiet for a moment, then added. The pretty lady too. She's been sad even longer. Naruto's heart ached. You can feel that? Their sadness? Uh-huh. It's like when it rains inside, but no one else can see the clouds. Riku snuggled closer. Baba, why do people get so sad they forget how to stop? Naruto didn't have an answer. He held his son and stared at the aligning moons and thought about all the sadness he'd seen in his life. His own childhood loneliness, Sasuke's grief, the pain of every enemy he'd ever fought. Some sadness could be healed with love and understanding. Some couldn't. But he had to believe that this sadness, the sadness of a broken son and an ancient goddess, could be healed. Because if he didn't believe that, then tomorrow was just a battle, and battles only ever ended one way. Was someone left behind to grieve? Riku, he said quietly. Tomorrow, no matter what happens, I need you to remember something. What, Baba? I love you. More than anything in this world or any other. And your mother loves you. And your grandparents, and your aunts and uncles, and everyone who's ever met you. He pressed a kiss to the top of Riku's head. That love is real. It's true. And nothing, no choice, no enemy, no sadness, can ever change that. Riku was quiet for a long moment. Then softly. I know, Baba. I've always known. They sat together in the darkness, father and son, watching the moons inch toward alignment. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, choices would be made that echoed across timelines. But tonight there was only this, a father holding his son, a son trusting his father, and love so vast it could almost bridge the gap between broken worlds.